is a bit of a chess match. You've got to like a challenge. You've got to like waking up every day knowing that things can change.
Well, you can get up every day and go to a new job. Because we do something different every day.
The public doesn't really understand a lot of this stuff that's going on. 90% of the people don't. I mean, you know, they go to Publix or Winn-Dixie or Walmart and there's the food, and people don't realize what all goes into this to make it all work.
Plans have to be pretty fluid, but I enjoy coming out every day and kind of seeing what we've been given to work with, whether it be weather today or in the next few days. And I enjoy the planning and sort of the game strategy.
You got this challenge that nature throws at you, and you're trying to work with it or outdo it or work, you know. And I guess that's what keeps us going, you know. But still in farming, you know, we can do everything right up until the last day and then lose it. You know, if a hurricane move in or a storm move in or a thunderstorm, it's on the ground. You know, we didn't do nothing wrong, but we still lost it. But we like that game, and we're gonna play that game. So we're gonna do it again.
I'm fifth generation here, so there must be something good about it, or we wouldn't be still here.
Certainly farming has its challenges, which is why Florida is fortunate to have the Suwannee Valley, an area ideal for a multitude of agricultural products.
So some of the crops in our rotation are carrots, sweet potatoes, sweet corn, snap beans, both fall and spring planted, peanuts, cotton, corn for grain and corn for silage.
You could just about point out any type of ag business, and probably within 100 miles of here you can find one. So it's just this area in the Suwannee Valley has a lot to offer.
A lot of times folks think of maybe South Florida as the area where the majority of the farmers would be, but in terms of sheer numbers, we have over 8,000 farmers that reside in this particular region that this center serves. In addition to that, we have the agricultural products that are raised in this region represent just a little over $1 billion of the $8 billion in agricultural sales throughout the state. So it's a big player in terms of agriculture throughout the state of Florida.
Farmers in the Suwannee Valley understand the importance of land management and conservation. They know that if the land isn't managed correctly, the source for their livelihood could disappear. One resource that's critical, not only for farming, but for the entire state of Florida, is water.
There is a focus on how producers are using our water here, primarily focused on the quality of water, being nutrients that are getting into our groundwater, and also the amount of water that they're using.
This light soil, we lose a lot of water to the sun every day, probably sometimes up to 1/4 of an inch. That's maybe 7,000 gallons an acre a day, just to the sun.
We live in an area that's just covered with multitude of springs, and those springs basically sustain the river flows like the Santa Fe River, the Suwannee River. When groundwater gets low, that's the flow of the river is springs, and they're important to the economy. Lots of people like to come here and swim and canoe and even scuba dive in our springs, so we've got to protect them.
The state of Florida is all tied together, where we have the same resource underneath us. In fact, the Floridan Aquifer, which is where the majority of the groundwater comes from in the Suwannee Valley region, is the same aquifer that runs down through the center part of the state.
And we have a big concern here with nitrogen. How is this going to impact us as homeowners, as consumers, as residents, as stakeholders, people that come here to canoe and enjoy our beautiful area? We've got to work together as a team, and everybody's got to listen to one another and talk to one another and help one another accomplish this goal.
To help farmers address these issues is one of the primary goals of the North Florida Research and Education Center in Live Oak, Florida. Operated by researchers and teachers from the University of Florida's IFAS program, this facility conducts research to help improve farming techniques for the Suwannee Valley, and then teach those techniques to farmers and consumers to help them become more efficient and better stewards of the land.
We have a diverse agriculture in this region, and therefore we have a lot of different projects and activities that we're doing here. And so some of the more unique ones to this particular center would probably be our greenhouse hydroponic program, where we are growing as many as 30 different crops and all kinds of different production systems inside a greenhouse and maximizing the utilization of water. So maybe tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers, a number of different herbs, specialty lettuces, and other leafy greens. So that's one of the most unique aspects of this center. We have about a 7-acre demonstration orchard as well, with a number of different fruit and nut crops in it. So everything from cold hardy citrus to pomegranates to olives and blueberries, chestnuts, peaches, plums, and nectarines. On the majority of the acreage that we have here at the farm, we're really focused on agronomic crops, things like peanuts and corn and sorghum, cotton in some years. And then the other aspect would be the commercial vegetable crops. So we do a lot of work here with watermelons and tomatoes and peppers and squash, cucumbers, those types of crops. There's a lot of technology that would be superimposed on all of that. Variable rate irrigation and variable rate fertilizer implements and things like that. So it's actually a pretty cool place to work because there's so many different things that are going on.
Techniques developed by the Research Center are called Best Management Practices, or BMPs, and they're designed to help farmers both conserve the land and also improve their bottom line. It's important to the farmers that these practices are tested and proven to be effective.
We don't have the ability, the way we farm and with farm margins the way they are, with input costs being so high, we don't have the opportunity to take as much risk. We have to minimize our risk as much as possible, and by having the extension service and the researchers and the cost share, that helps minimize that risk for us. And we know when we go out and plant something or what practice that we're doing, we know it's a proven fact and that it will work.
If I'm going to make an investment in this practice, is it going to benefit me or my family or the environment or whatever? And that has to be science-based. It can't be based on hearsay or emotion.
As with any operation in agriculture industry, new technology always advances. And so I've always been one to try to look towards doing new things and new ideas and what's going to work better, not only on our farm and help us improve our bottom line, but as well as the environment, and just doing whatever I can to help everything to keep the land and the environment like it was before we got here.
For example, computerized poultry houses allow for more environmental control with greater precision from one location or even from a smartphone, reducing the need for manual controls that eat up time and energy, and allow the farmer to perform other tasks while still being able to monitor and control heat levels, water, feed, and ventilation. BMPs are certainly not limited to the poultry industry. New technology and management techniques have been applied to all aspects of agriculture, including the beef cattle and dairy industry. And some of the most significant advances include new irrigation technology.
Technologies we didn't have even when I got out of college and started farming. We didn't have remote pivot irrigation management and monitoring systems. We didn't have the soil moisture probes that we have nowadays, and even the soil moisture probes over the last 10 years have improved dramatically. I mean, where you've got, real-time information, here on our phone that you can make decisions based off of throughout the course of a day or before or after a rain event. I mean, all those things, you can see exactly what's happening in the field.
Another benefit from new technology is the ability to utilize land that was previously untenable for farming.
This pivot is only like 28 acres. Well, this would just be wasteland if it wasn't for a variable rate pivot, because you couldn't irrigate it. It's got so many different soil types in it.
On that far outside, let's say if it was real dry around that outside edge, you might leave those sprinklers on the whole time as you're going through. But as you get closer in, where you have a wet spot, you might pulse on and just give a little bit, because that inside part doesn't need as much moisture as that outside part does. and that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, I think efficiency is definitely the name of the game today among our farmers, and we certainly are concerned about efficiencies of water usage in this region, but also there's a lot of efficiencies today in relation to energy consumption. It takes a lot of energy for us to be able to produce a chicken or a gallon of milk or a ton of carrots or a tractor trailer load of watermelons. And so to be able to survive today, we have to be able to do that more efficiently with energy. So if you look at the irrigation example, if we go back 25 or 30 years ago, we were using high pressure irrigation systems that took a lot of pumping power to push that water. And today we've changed that technology to low pressure systems, so we're probably using half of the energy that we used to in converting from high pressure systems to low pressure systems in our pivot irrigation systems today. And then from the high pressure guns of the old days to drip irrigation, we're able to do that same crop, grow that same crop today with only 20% of the energy inputs that we used to be able to do. So we're finding out ways to conserve water. We're finding out ways to conserve energy through diesel fuel and other resources that we have to use to be able to grow these crops. And we're also learning how to minimize the use of pesticides on many of our farms as well. And that certainly is able to be a good thing and being much more efficient in the use of inputs like pesticides and irrigation and fuel.
Our toolbox has really improved over the last 30 years. In the last 10 years, it's really taken off with the irrigation, the tractors, equipment, and being able to hit things so precise. It's like it's shooting with a rifle anymore instead of a shotgun. We were real accurate with what we do and precise, and it's more it's more costly, but it's better in the long run. We do a better job, and our production helps pay for that extra.
Another successful program in effect in the Suwannee Valley is a cost share program that allows farmers to finance the purchase of new equipment developed from the research. This enables farmers to implement best management practices sooner rather than later.
We may have to save up 5 or 6 years to get this piece of equipment. If they can help us get it today, then we can be in practice and be going, before we can afford to buy it, which helps everybody.
Farmers are ready to adopt these new technologies. In most cases, in addition to a water quality or quantity benefit that we derive from these cost share programs, the producers help improve their efficiency and can cut their inputs, helping improve their bottom line. So they're really ready to adopt these different things.
It's clear that the Suwannee Valley is one of the most important regions in the Southeast when it comes to agriculture. It's special, not only because of the unique terrain and high quality of the farmland, but also because of the farmers who live there and take care of it.
A lot of people don't realize that farmers and agriculturalists, they were the first environmentalists, because if you really sit down and think about it for a second, if a farmer takes care, he's farming the land, growing the animals, feeding the world. If he doesn't take care of what's producing his income or his product, it's not going to produce it anymore. So, if we don't take care of what's taking care of us, then we're not going to be here. And if we're not here, then there's nobody to feed the world and feed America.
I think farmers have always been conservationists. The fact of sustainability and farms being passed from generation to generation, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens by people taking care of the land and the environment that we work in. I think the technology that's available now in terms of data collection and truly being able to measure what you're doing and make decisions, kind of fine-tuning things, that's been a huge impact in terms of how quickly we can, either learn what we're doing right or, more importantly, what we're doing wrong to improve crop production.
I guess really on the 8th day, God did make a farmer.